I couldn't believe how powerful this exotic is. With the change of the new stats, Bungie made most of the stats pretty good and some kind of trash. I just want you guys to pay attention to the gameplay. I am 1v1ing a wyvern, and as I am activating this aspect called Fletched Storm, look at his health bar. That thing went down extremely fast. So this is a Fletched Storm build, and this thing packs a whopping punch. We're going to be getting tons of melee energy extremely fast, increase in melee damage. To make this build even work, you're going to want to use two things. The first one we're going to be talking about is this exotic gauntlet called Wishful Ignorance. The armor perk is called Wish Dragon's Talons. You would gain an additional Frenzied Blade charge, so by default you would get 3 charges, but now you're going to be getting 4 charges. Your Frenzied Blade and Fletched Storm briefly increase their damage with each strike. Your pulses from your Banner of War return melee energy based on the number of allies healed. So the more allies that are surrounded by you when Banner of War is activated, the more melee energy you're going to be receiving. Alright, so see how my melee ability has 4 charges? That's because of the exotic gauntlet. So in order for you to activate the exotic gauntlet, you're going to want to use this aspect, which is called Fletched Storm. In order for you to activate this, all you would have to do is slide and then activate your charge melee ability. It will launch yourself into the air, knocking nearby targets around you, and it would also deal damage. While you are airborne, activate your charge melee ability to launch a cluster of Strand projectiles that will unravel the target. And as you're doing that, repeat that multiple times, and you're going to be spamming this non-stop. So here's what you're going to want to do. You're going to want to run, slide, activate your charge melee, and keep spamming it until all of your melee charges have been depleted. And as what you just saw there, everything got eviscerated. And I just had 1 stack of Banner of War, which is pretty bonkers. So now that I have ×4 Banner of War, I just want to show you how powerful it is when it comes to killing these enemies, as what you're going to be seeing right now. I'm going to be getting my melee back just to show you guys. ×4 Banner of War is what you see there. And just look at them fall over like nothing. Like nothing. Look at all that. Bye-bye. So there is going to be 2 ways to increase our melee damage. The first one is with our stat, which is melee, and the second one is with our aspect. The first one I'm going to want to talk about is the aspect called Banner of War. Here's how to activate it. You can either defeat targets with your melee attack, your finisher, or sword kills to raise a Banner of War that pulses with energy. It would also periodically heal nearby allies, and it would also again increase your melee and sword damage. Targets defeated by you and your nearby allies will charge the banner, increasing the speed of its pulse. So the maximum of pulses you can be able to get is 4. The second method to increase your melee damage is your melee stat, and let me show you what it does. If you reach 100 melee within your stat, it will reduce your melee cooldown, and it would increase the amount of melee energy you gain from all sources. But here's the kicker. If you were to reach beyond 100 stats, and I recommend going up to 200, it will increase your melee damage, and that's what we're going to need to do for this build. More damage, more better. I do want to let you guys know that if you are struggling when it comes to getting a boatload of melee stats, I do recommend running a boatload of melee fonts. If you run 1 stack, that is 20 melee stat. If you run 2, that is 50 melee stat. And if you run 3, that is 60 melee stat. So depending on how far you are from 200, that's how much melee stats you're going to be getting from that melee font mod. But if you are going to be reaching 200 within your melee without needing a melee font, you can run triple melee handed, because remember, we're going to be insta-killing every single enemy we see in front of us. So if we have triple melee handed, the cooldown for generating an orb of power when getting a powered melee final blow is 1 second. For your abilities, the only one I would recommend you would put is grapple for your Strand grenade, because if you were to do a grapple melee, that also counts activating Banner of War. So let's see if I can be able to activate Banner of War. I'm going to activate my grapple, get that powered melee kill, and hopefully I would get it. Yes, I actually did get it, because you see the ring around me. There you go. I also want to give you guys a quick tip for the super. The super that we only have is Blade Fury, and I really want to show you guys what it really does when it comes to generating even more melee energy. So just to give you an example, I'm just going to waste all of my melee abilities. Now I have nothing. I'm going to activate my super, and I'm just going to keep spamming it non-stop. Keep spamming it, spamming it, spamming it, because your goal is to waste your super, because once you're done with your super, pay attention to the melee. See how I got most of my melee energy back? That is one benefit when it comes to using your super. So like, for example, if you're in a tight pickle and you really need your melee energy back, be sure to activate your super, and bada bing bada boom, you get most of your melee energy back. Another thing I want to mention for the Blade Fury when it comes to dealing as much damage as possible, you're going to want to activate your super, you're going to want to hit your heavy button, and then you're going to want to swing 3 times, because those will give you crits. So heavy, 1, 2, 3, those are 3 crits. But let's just say if I were to hit get the 4th initial shot while he's suspended, that 4th initial shot will not give me that critical hit. So it's gonna be 1, 2, 3, 4. See how the 4th hit did not get a crit? Be sure to hit your heavy button, then hit him 3 times with your light attack. Heavy, 3 light attacks, heavy, 3 light attacks to optimize your damage for the super. There's gonna be 4 fragments in total. The first one I recommend you would want to go for is Thread of Warning for more survivability, because whenever you pick up an orb of power, it will grant you Woven Mail. And while you have Woven Mail, it will give you a 45% damage resist, and this will last up to 5 seconds. The second fragment you're going to want to go for is Thread of Continuity to increase the duration for Suspend, Unravel, and Sever. In this build, we're going to be suspending and unraveling. The third fragment you're going to want to go for is Thread of Fury to give you even more melee energy whenever you deal damage with a Tangle, because in order for you to spawn a Tangle, you're going to want to do these 3 things: either apply the debuffs Sever, Suspend, and Unravel. If any of those enemies have those Strand debuffs, they will spawn in a Tangle. And for the final fragment I went with is Thread of Propagation. You can change this one off if you like. Powered melee final blows grant your Strand weapons unraveling rounds. Even though the exotic weapon we are using for this build is a kinetic, you can also put a Strand weapon on your power weapon slot. And for me, I went with a Strand LMG, but if you want to take even more stacks for your Banner of War, I recommend going for a Strand sword. I went with the Strand LMG because I wanted to activate an artifact that whenever you deal Strand damage to a Tangle, the area of effect of that Tangle explosion will become bigger. And that seasonal artifact is called Threaded Blast. Whenever you were to say a Tangle, be sure to swap to your Strand weapon and be sure to hit it with it to increase the area of effect. The exotic weapon I went with for this build is Monte Carlo. This exotic weapon is the bread and butter for this build when it comes to generating a boatload of melee energy. So as you are dealing damage with this weapon, it will 1, reduce your melee cooldown, and would also have a chance to grant you full melee charge for each kill. Also 2, for the weapon perk, which is called Markov Chain, this weapon gains increased damage from melee attacks and kills with this weapon. Melee kills grant ammo for this weapon. And if you have the catalyst for this exotic auto rifle, it would basically grant you the ability to use your bayonet. So here's what it does when it comes to using your bayonet. You can either get 5 kills with your Monte Carlo to get ×5 stacks, hold your reload button to convert it into the bayonet, as what you see on the bottom left of the screen. It has a different icon to it. And now be sure to use your melee ability to melee an enemy to grant you melee ability energy. So this time I'm going to use my basic melee to activate the Markov Chain. Now I have ×5, hold my bayonet, use the bayonet on this enemy, and I got melee energy back. Also too, getting the bayonet kill also stacks to Banner of War. So here are the seasonal artifacts I was using for this build. If you freely want to copy it or change it up a bit, you can freely do so. And same goes for the armor mods. Be sure to copy it if you like, but for the armor mods I was using for this build, I mainly want to prioritize into increasing my damage for my Monte Carlo and also producing a boatload of orbs with our powered melee ability. I do really hope you enjoyed this build video. If you'd like to try it out for yourself, the Mobalytics link will be in the description. I hope you guys have a good rest of your day, evening, or afternoon. Take care and peace.